Hey there, are you ready to learn how to discover yourself as a person, as a brand, as a leader, as a business owner, as a mom, whatever that is going to look like for you? Because I have my best friend Sherri Brown in this special interview because she is launching her book, Discovering You, which I am so excited to bring on. So Sherri is actually a really good friend of mine. I've spent so much time with her family, visiting her, and we got to hang out at events together. And she's just an all-around amazing person, amazing business owner, and I've seen her hit so many of her business goals. It's been absolutely amazing, and I'm just beyond excited for seeing her launch her book. It's her very first physical book, which you're going to be able to grab on Amazon. We're going to be talking more about that, but let's dive right into the interview. Hey Sherri, I'm so excited to see you here today. Super excited to have this interview with you. How are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Always excited to talk to you and super pumped to have you with this interview. So we've been best friends for a long time. It feels like it was just
Years.
yesterday, but it's been like ages now. So why don't you share a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in the online marketing?
Well, I have been in the whole online marketing space since probably 2011. Got my start in network marketing, I think, like most people. But the first 4 years were pretty brutal. You know the story. Like, I was a total spammer. And so I was just, trying to spam my way to success, which clearly didn't work. About 4 years in, my sister told me I was a spammer, which was, although it was a little bit, like a stab to the heart, it was the best thing that probably happened for my business, because it was at that point where I really realized, like, hey, if I want to make a go with this, I actually need to learn how to do it. And so that's when I kind of got it started, like hiring mentors, coaches, learning about branding. And I've changed a lot of things up over the years. I mean, I went from network marketing to kind of like dipping my toes into affiliate marketing before I started creating like my own online courses and things like that. Because when I first got started, I didn't know the rest of this world of like entrepreneurship really existed, or didn't really think it was like possible for me. But now I'm just continuing with creating courses and in the online branding space, just teaching people how to get started, because it was rough for me. Very brutal.
Yeah, I know. Like hearing your sister say that, Sherri, you're a spammer, that probably hurt like a bitch.
It did. Well, because at that time I was just using Facebook. And so I was asking her, I was like, hey, what do you think of my post? You're not liking anything. Like, you need to go like and comment and get me some engagement. And she was like, I love you, but you're a spammer. And I was like, well, you're not wrong.
So what did you do after your sister told you that? Like what were your, like the next steps? Okay, so I have to figure this out. What was your next like action step?
Well, what's funny is they say when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And it was then where like I heard the term attraction marketing, but I wasn't really for sure like what that meant. And then all of a sudden, like once you hear it, then you start kind of picking up and seeing it more. And that's when somehow I ended up coming across like a post that Ray Higdon did. And he was the first coach I ever hired back in 2015, I want to say. And within like 6 weeks of working with him, that was the first time since starting that I was consistently able to grow. So that's kind of like what catapulted it. And then I just kind of started diving in. I learned branding and how to go out there and create content that wasn't just pitching, but more like helpful, educational type content. But I was still in the beginning, I was with a network marketing, like a skincare company. And so they were like, you've got the business side of network marketing, you've got the product side. So with me, I was sitting here kind of doing attraction marketing, putting out content, but I was talking about both sides. And as I was looking at other people's posts, I'm like, hey, I don't see other people doing this. So like, what am I missing? And that's when somebody was like, mention the term branding. And that's kind of like what started that journey. of, kind of narrowing it down and figuring out like what I actually wanted to be known for versus just a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah, and I remember first time when I believe we both were in Ray Higdon's program about blogging, and you didn't know me at the time, and I first saw your website, and I just knew that like I could spot Ray Higdon students, and I was like, man, Sherri's probably a big deal. I really thought that you were like a six-figure network marketer or some sort of like big person. I was like, dang, like I wish I could be friends with her. And then we met up, and I was like, man.
Yeah, through MLS, but the whole MLSP community, attraction marketing, that we were an affiliate with, and which was super, super helpful too, like just the education. It's helpful, like hiring a coach, cutting down your learning curve, things like that. Like once I started diving into it, it was quick, but it was just, I guess before that, I was just kind of going through like, especially in network marketing, because those companies, most of them, I'm not going to say all, but most of them don't teach attraction marketing. They definitely don't teach branding. And so I was just kind of following what the leaders in my company were doing, and they were making it big. But the whole point was, what I didn't realize is they had influence prior to ever joining. So they were people who could spam, and it was all right because they already had a big following. They had influence, and I didn't have that.
So what was your overall experience with, I remember you were posting so much content about anything and everything under the sun. I remember, and you were telling me that you were posting skincare, and I did peep some of your social media posts back then from Facebook. I was like, man, like she was really a spammer, wasn't she? And it's like, no shame, because we've all done that, right? But then, you found attraction marketing, and you started, figuring out the whole content marketing, and, ultimately started discovering yourself as a person, and like finding your own spot in the, marketing world, talking about SEO and then this and that. Like, how long did it really take you to, figure all that out? Like, what's your lane? And were you like creating content everywhere? Like, what was the whole like process for you?
Well, my experience was, once I dove into attraction marketing, it was like, go out there, create content. Well, I was absorbing all kinds of information, anything that I could listen to on business, podcasts, webinars, like all these different topics. And I was just sharing what I was learning. And when it comes to, as far as where I was creating that content at, again, I was everywhere, because I started out with Facebook, and then somebody was like, no, you need to get Snapchat. Snapchat's big and people are blowing it up on Snapchat. So I'm like, okay, I got Snapchat. And I want to say I started it in like 2016. And then somebody else was like, oh, well, Instagram's where it's at. You need to get on Instagram. And it was like this snowball effect. And I was putting this content everywhere, and I wasn't growing. Like, I was still stuck. And eventually what happened is I started realizing, like, I was talking about all these things. I was diving more into branding and learning like how to niche, whatever, how to become known for something. And so it was kind of like, through what I was learning, I slowly started tapering off what I was talking about. And I did it by, first of all, like, what didn't I want to talk about? So take, for instance, prospecting. I used to give all kinds of tips on where to find people and how to prospect. All the while, I freaking hated prospecting. Like, I hated cold messaging. I just, in general, I'm not a prospector. And I know that it is the fastest way to get into profit. I'm fully aware of that. But I was also okay knowing I prefer marketing. I know it's going to take me longer, and I'm okay with that. So my expectations. And so knowing that, and knowing that, like, I don't want to talk about prospecting, I just stopped talking about it. And slowly over time, through trial and error and just time, I was kind of able to narrow down and figure out, like, hey, like, my thing, what I really like teaching about is helping other people get started, because that was such an issue for me. And that was such a part of when I got started, all those years of feeling like I would take 2 steps forward to take 3 steps back. It was because I didn't have the foundation in place. And you know, as well as I do, whenever you're getting started in anything, you know what I mean? Like there's a learning curve and there is a lot of information out there. And so for me, I just knew that like I like to keep things simple. I don't like complicated. And I wanted to help people cut through all of the noise and the overwhelm and teach them what I wish I knew when I'd got started. And so that was kind of my journey. It took a long time to figure out like, hey, what I wanted to do, but I just kept at it until I figured it out.
So, what would you suggest to somebody who is, wanting to get started and they may even have some ideas, but they're like, I cannot discover myself. I don't know, where do I get started? What was your initial, I guess, like will or desire to get started online? What was that like nudge that I have to figure something out?
Well, the nudge happened when my sister called me a spammer. But as far as like, so the question is like, are you asking my advice to people, like what to focus on when they're getting started? I would say number one, start with branding. I think branding is the foundational piece, and there's multiple layers to branding. And I'm not talking about go get a logo and figure out your color schemes, because those are just extra bonuses that, are more like visual stuff to your brand. But I'm talking branding in a sense of like self-discovery, figuring out who you are. What do you like? What are your interests? What do you not like? And I think if you can start with a whole self-discovery piece of figuring out who you are as a person, what are your values? What are your beliefs? What are your likes? What are like fires you up? Are there specific topics that you feel like you could talk about forever? What's something that you could feel like you could sit here and learn forever? For me, I love marketing. I love branding. I could sit here and consume that content, and it's not a chore for me. Like I just eat it up. But I say self-discovery first, because one of the, I guess, lessons that I learned along the way when I first got started is I kept hopping from thing to thing to thing. And here's what I mean by that. I was with like 3 different network marketing companies. The first was like selling totes. Then I went to skincare because I was like, well, everybody's got skin. And I'm into skincare products, so that's a good one. And then I went to jewelry before I went to like, something else. And even when I got into affiliate marketing, like I was toggling and, jumping from thing to thing to thing. And what I realized is I was chasing the dollar versus making decisions that were aligned with my own interests, that were aligned with what I believed in, my values, and what really like lit me up and made me happy and brought joy to my life and fulfillment. And so I think that's a big reason why you see so many people hopping from thing to thing, is because they're not taking the time to figure out who they are as a person. So that's why I say self-discovery. And then branding in a very simple, of course, we can dive deeper into it and I could talk about it forever. But from there, like once you figure out what direction you want to go, it's, what do you want to do? What problem do you want to solve in the marketplace? Who are you trying to help? And then, go out there, start creating content that helps people get from where they are now to where they want to be. So in my case, I'm all about helping people get started. Where are they now? Okay, they're just beginning their journey, or they've been at it and they don't know what they're doing and not gaining any traction like I was. But where do they want to be? They want to have clarity. They struggle with overwhelm. They don't know where to start. And so that's where you can kind of bridge the gap.
I like that you mentioned that the reason why people are hopping from one thing to another is because they're just chasing the dollar. And, I always say that if you just want to make some money, go get a job. Like that's probably going to be the easiest, especially if you do have, a degree, you have a specific qualification and, but if you're going to dive into entrepreneurship, you got to do something that you're actually going to enjoy doing, because you're ultimately going to probably do it forever or for as long as you want.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so I know that you're launching a book, so I do want to bring that up, which is your very first physical book on Amazon. It's going to be available right after this interview. Actually, when this interview is live, you're already going to be able to get the Kindle version, so I will leave a link down below. And that's also the reason why we're talking a lot about branding and self-discovery, because that's really the foundational piece that any business owner gets to have, especially if you're going to be building a personal brand and even a corporate brand. That's still going to be like some sort of discovery of the company and the vision and the mission statement and everything like that. So Sherri, share a little bit more about the book and also your experience with writing a book.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about the book first because the experience is a whole other beast. Okay. So the book is called Discovering You. And up until 2020, the year that everything went to, poop for a lot of people, I taught branding really on a very surface level. So who are you? What do you want? Who do you serve? I didn't really dive deep into the self-discovery. But in 2020, my life kind of flipped upside down. I shut down my business and I just felt lost. Like I just was not, I felt complacent. Like I was just going through life, like just going through the motions. I didn't really feel motivated anymore, which, there were some personal things happen. My brother died and some others, which was huge. And that kind of led me into this whole, it was a traumatic experience that opened my eyes and raised my awareness to what do I want? What do I want with my life? Because up until that point, I just kind of went along with society doing what I thought we're supposed to do, depending on what age and where you're at in life. And so that was kind of like the reason behind writing it. And also, I think that when you can do a deep dive into who you are and learn more about yourself and the whole self-discovery process, it can help you create a much more powerful brand that's in true alignment with who you are. And so that's why I love the whole self-discovery process. So it's basically, I go over 3 different things. It's 3 steps to ignite your inner spark, because we go over the whole mindset piece. Then part 2 of the book is discovering who you are. And then part 3 of the book is steps and tips to help you become the best you. And so that is really the basis. It's the first part of, where I would say to start with when it comes to branding. The process of writing a book, whew, it is a whole other beast. I'm in new territory and it is like sink or swim. Okay. It's been a process. But I will say, just like anything else, when you're starting out, you can feel really overwhelmed because it's, again, new territory. And so one of my biggest strengths is I outsource a lot. And you know this, Jelena. So even though I don't know how to do something, I found people who were able to help me, who already had knowledge, who already did it. And so that has been huge for me when it comes to just keeping my sanity.
And I totally love the part that you say outsourcing, because that's really what stops a lot of people from really taking action, and I know some people are gonna, read the book and they're gonna be like, okay, so I discovered myself, but then the mindset kicks in. I cannot do that. I'm not too technical. I don't know social media. I don't like social media. I can't do this. So, and I know you're
And we
one of
cover
the.
all that. I cover all that in the book.
Oh, great.
All those, yes, I go into all of those different lies and beliefs and tackle all that because it does hold a lot of people back. And I think I didn't realize how important, like I knew mindset was important as an entrepreneur, obviously, but I did not realize the impact that a poor mindset and limiting beliefs can have on you in every aspect of your life. Like I thought I was pretty mentally strong until 2020 hit and I shut down everything. And I just I had to work on my mind. And it was in that moment when I realized just how important your mindset is, because it was not strong. It wasn't at the level that it needed to be at, and it carried over into every other aspect of my life, my, being a mom, business, everything.
And I also feel like 2020 has been the year where, yes, a lot of businesses have shut down, but the therapists have probably been thriving because we've all been messed up.
Yep. Hey, I had a therapist.
Yeah, like and I mean, it's refreshing, talking to somebody. But, one thing that I will say also about 2020, and I know if 2020 didn't happen, a lot of people would probably still stay at their job, still feel mediocre, not really experiencing that change. And, I interviewed somebody last week. She got laid off as well. And she was like, you know what? Like, yes, it was pretty bad, but she was like, I was already doing something else. And it just pushed me to step up into a better place, showing up
Yeah.
better, developing a better mindset. So, in a way, like in every bad situation, there's always something great happening. So, and I feel like you've had that shift, happen to you as well in 2020 and
Yeah.
2021 to, you shutting down the business and now basically like resurrecting like a phoenix, phoenix bird.
Yes, I am. I'm back.
Yeah, I'm like one thing that I'm excited, like as a friend, just to see you back because, seeing your best friend depressed and like not knowing what's gonna happen, it's always like, man, like how can I support? What can I do? Because I've known you always as that red personality, go get after your goals, the amount of goals that
Yes.
you've crushed in the last couple of years. I'm like, man, if Sherri shuts down, it's like, what the heck are we all supposed to be doing?
I know. But, and you know what else too? And is I think, there's seasons for everything. Like I had a very long winter. And for a long time, I beat myself up about it too, because I wasn't creating content consistently, which is what I always preached. I wasn't at the level that I was at before. And I let it get me down for so long. But then I realized like I just had to surrender and work on me, because if I wasn't at my best, I was not going to be there to serve my clients. And I think, my students and people that came through different courses and stuff that I'd created. And so I think a big thing is give yourself some grace and honor the season you're in. Like everybody's not going to be just on top of their game 24/7. And yeah, that's something important to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's touch a little bit more about outsourcing and, saving yourself time because a lot of the times, there are just so many things that we want to do. And I know you covered that in the book as well, but how did you, I can't remember like how you got into outsourcing yourself. Was it like through Shalene Johnson? Because you're one of those people that just outsource about 75% of your life.
I know. Well, I remember what got me into it is Maddie was small. My daughter was small. And I remember like we were living out in Pickwick and I was in network marketing and like I was just on my phone constantly. Like I just had, I don't know, just this subconscious like limiting belief that if somebody messaged me, like I had to answer right then or I was going to lose money. I was going to lose the sale. And I was just like always working. There were no boundaries. I had no boundaries at that point. And it just started like causing problems, bleeding over when you're sitting here working all the time. And I wasn't like, even though I was there, I wasn't there. Like I was not present at all. And I remember one night sitting in Maddie's room when she was a baby and she was trying to tell me something. I was like, wait. And I'm sitting here like messaging on my phone. And she took my face and she's like, Mommy, listen to me. And that's when I realized like something had to change, and I started outsourcing. I can't remember if it wasn't Shalene Johnson. I think initially, I think it was Nadia Melton, if I'm being honest. And I ended up just diving into the world of outsourcing. And I started small. I started with a virtual assistant hired from the Philippines, doing just like tedious, time consuming work and built up from there. But I not only outsource in my business, I outsource here. Like we don't mow our grass. Somebody comes and does it. Like I have a little brother who's a teenager. You've met Ethan. And so what teenager doesn't want money? So I'll have him come over and do stuff like clean up the backyard, front yard, like do whatever to make money. I outsource a lot. And I love that quote and I don't know who initially said this quote, but it's, you can have it all, but you can't do it all. Like, I'm not one to sit here and wear it as a badge of honor, like, ooh, I do everything. Like, no, I don't think it's smart. Not if you want to keep your sanity and have any type of freedom. You have to find help. And
And
I've been
one
doing it
thing
for
as
years.
well, one thing as well, I feel like, and it probably comes from our parents. Like, I don't know about you, but like my parents would always tell me how, how hard they've always worked, and that mindset that we get instilled even from, like, I feel like on a subconscious level when we were kids, it's like, oh, it's hard to make money, you have to work hard and blah 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 blah. But then eventually you come to business and you're like, man, and I noticed that with me too, every single time when I push so hard and I, hustle and stay up late, I never really attract a whole lot of good things into my life. But whenever and I was telling a friend of mine, Anna, I'm like, every single time I go on a trip, like literally the moment I leave the house, I get messages, hey, can we interview you? Hey, can I hire you? So the moment you start working less and you start
Yes.
working smarter, magical things happen.
Yes. I love the quote too, work smarter, not harder. Because I mean, there's ways to go about things like, as far as editing, there's so many things I outsourced as far as the book went. I had an editor, and then the same guy who edits, which actually is my cousin, he's also the one that was able to format the book, because when you're, self-publishing on Amazon, you've got different formats. You've got the Kindle version, you've got the soft cover. Well, those are two totally different formats. Well, I'm not a creative graphic designer. I outsource the book cover. And then even so much as like, when you upload it, you have to put it in different categories, and you have to have keywords, and you have to, so there's this research on the back end of it. Well, I actually hired a previous student, Davita, and she did like keyword and category research for me because she's self-published before. So she was already aware of the process. She's familiar with me. She was a beta reader, so she knew what the book was about. And I outsourced that. So like I'm all the time trying to, and I hired you in the past too to manage my Instagram, because I'm like, I know that, things still need to be done, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And even if you know how to do it, it doesn't mean you should be doing it.
That's a great lesson right there, because you don't always, unless it's a video, I always say you can probably outsource that. Like, yeah, you can't outsource your face, like, yeah, do the video, but then you don't have to be present everywhere. So
Exactly.
and it also kind of helps to have a big family, right? Who can do stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here in just a little bit, but Sherri, share one lesson. This one question that I like to ask is, if you were to get started all over again in business, knowing what you know now, so much, like years of knowledge, what would you do differently?
Well, first of all, I would have gotten a clue first, and I would have gotten the foundation. I mean, everything, just like a house, the whole saying, a house is going to topple without a solid foundation. So the biggest thing that I would have done differently is actually started with the foundation. I wouldn't have listened to everybody who kept telling me, oh, you need to do this, be here, be there, and do all these advanced strategies, when I didn't even have like my brand down. You know what I mean? And if you don't have the foundation down, no advanced strategy is going to work. And so, that would be the biggest thing that I would have done all over, is I would have really dove in and created a solid foundation first.
Yeah, and probably not spam your way through.
Yeah. But my whole mess is now my message. So
Yeah, without the mess, there's no message, that's for sure.
yep.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up. So Sherri, share again where people can get the book, and Do you have anything else going on besides the book? I know you have a course like brewing over there in the process. So share some more stuff how people can learn from you.
All right. So you can just go to sherrybrowncoaching.com. That should have all of my social media handles and information about the book as well. It will be coming out February 28th. So depending on when you're watching this, it'll be available on Amazon. But everything's on my website. I've got free resources and things on there. And that's where you can find out all the information, which Jelena updates as she is my tech girl.
Yeah, we're going to have to put that book up there for sure.
Yes, it's already up there.
Oh, is it?
It should be. Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I know there was a waiting list or something.
Yeah.
But it's going to be there, so y'all can go get it.
Yes, exactly. Before this interview comes out, it'll be updated.
The master outsourcer has spoken.
Yes.
All right, Sherri, it's been such a pleasure having you here. I know listeners are going to get so much value from this, and y'all should go follow Sherri on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And all the links are going to be below in the description, as well as the book. So go grab it. It's going to be available on Kindle and the physical copy. Buy it for you, buy it for a friend of yours, for a family member, because I mean, we're all in the so-called creator economy. So everybody gets to discover what the heck you're going to be doing and who the heck you are as well. So Sherri, Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jelena.